do like at least 4 different things here. Keep it squared away. All right, guys. Topic's the same. You guys know the rules. As we're trying to, Aphrodisius, we're trying to keep you enlightened, keep everyone enlightened here. This is a show about Judaism, people, and a public performance on how much could the average Jew disagree with me. Let's see. It's not what you like to disagree on or what you think you know, but what you can defend. I was having a discussion with someone on this topic. They were asking me about the 13 principles of Maimonides. So I would say the average person who says they believe in the 13 principles can't even enumerate the 13 principles, by the way. It's just, it's not just a Jewish thing. We see this in Christianity also, that people, they want to fit in. So they'll ask, what's normative? Oh, well, these principles here. And they're like, yeah, that's what I believe in, right? Just because they want to get the fancy, I don't know, honors and spouses for their children. But in all good conscience, if there's an idea that I can't defend, I'm not going to say I believe in it. Now, the idea doesn't have to be necessarily a bad idea for you to espouse such a position. The idea of just giving over lip service to look cool doesn't fly anymore. What's Diovan do? Diovan, I don't know, I'm just a fan of Diovan. I keep on switching it out every few months. I had Candace Owens before, Ernest Hemingway, Pop Smoke, John Wayne. What do those guys have in common? Not much. What do you do about the Talmud? What about it? What about it? We don't walk around, or at least Jews from my camp don't walk around believing it's the word of God, although it contains Torah Shabbal Peh, the oral law. It contains it. That means parts of it is not oral law. But let's see. Jews come. It's my son's name, actually. What's up? What's up, man? So, are you Adam or are you Adam?
Adam.
Okay, that's what's up. So I sound Jewish.
Yes, I am.
Like, are you religious?
Semi. I don't keep Shabbat, but I do Tefillim every day, and I celebrate all the holidays.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you know that you should be keeping Shabbat, that's what counts.
Oh, I do know. Trust me. It's just my circumstance right now is a little difficult, but
No,
I
no,
tell
no.
100%.
I'm not trying to put you through any guilt trip. I mean, I'm not
No, I
perfect
know.
either.
Buddy, my uncle is full religious, and he tells me this all the time, so I'm used to it.
No. The point I'm trying to make is that it's worse to deny that laws exist than to say that we're just too weak to keep them. There's many laws that I'm too weak to keep, right? Or many halachot in particular. But I don't deny that they exist. The problem when people deny they exist is when they start creating replacement laws. Like many people who, I don't know, like have no issue eating cheese with meat. It will be like, oh, it's not literally in the Torah, this and that. So they'll justify it and say it doesn't exist instead of saying, you know what, I know I should be keeping it, right? Because Chazal says to keep it, right? But I'm just too weak and I'll have to deal with God, on that note.
I don't eat meat and cheese. I stopped 4 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to redefine what being frum is, being religious is, right? It's not having a black hat and a long beard and a long coat, but at least being able to articulate where your values come from, even though you don't keep those values as much as you would want to. Because I'll tell you, from what I've noticed, the longer the beard, the less impressive the individual. Like people who act like follow me because I look so holy typically have the most skeletons in their closet. Okay, because looks don't matter. We're all phony to some
You know what
extent.
matters? What matters is your connection with God. That's what matters.
Well,
Your personal connection with Elohim.
I mean, for me, I mean, essentially how that connection affects your connection to people. Because some people, I mean, they believe in God, but they treat other people like crap and they misrepresent God. So
Exactly.
I think it's a litmus test. If you treat people crappy, that's like, I mean, your God is not my God.
And I've
So,
noticed that because you do. I pray every day. I do tefillin, and sometimes I catch myself being nasty and being mean towards other people, and I ask myself, what would God say and think of me acting this way? God, I'm supposed to be in His image. I should be respectful and positive, and and be straight and not be nasty. And sometimes I catch myself, but we're human, you know.
So when I was, I lived in Israel for 5 years, and I noticed. I mean, I just can't but be honest, even though it doesn't make my side look good. And I asked myself, were people nicer in Tel Aviv or in Yerushalayim? And then I'm thinking, like, to be honest, people were nicer to me in Tel Aviv. Okay, I mean, let's just be. I mean, I used to go running with this group that used to run in Hangar. Hangar is like where the pier is. They have this long pier in Tel Aviv that you could like run for miles on it. And it sometimes becoming religious doesn't make you sweeter. Now, I know many sweet religious people, but like maybe because we hold religious people to a higher standard, the magnifying lens is more on their lives than maybe a secular person, right? But I think that religious people have to kind of turn the sweetness up, because there's many people who are not choosing Judaism because they don't want to be yelled at, right? I mean, I remember I used to date this girl in Israel that, like, she would walk to Meir Sharim. I don't know if you know where Meir Sharim, like,
No.
it's like, and they would throw eggs on her on Shabbos. I mean, just because like her skirt was too colorful. I mean, granted, she was wearing pants. Like the Tatilumi, breast lovey style, like
Okay.
shtachim skirt is not something they tolerate in very Haredi communities. And you figure if someone's so religious, they should be the sweetest people in the world, but they're not, So yeah, there's what to say on people on why they don't want to become religious. So the question is, what are we doing wrong? You know, but my opinion.
It's even harder on us these days because of the war. A lot of people are being pushed to hide their faith, especially being Jewish, because
In America.
especially in America. I've seen it firsthand, but what I can say is, for people listening, just create a special connection with God. Always pray, stay close, and follow the laws of God. Even though you like that cheese on your burger, sometimes it's good to sacrifice some things. And what I've seen in the past 4 years since I've started praying and following the rules is that things started changing in my life. Things started getting more positive. Things started getting better. And I'm forever grateful for it. And I continue to do it. And people don't understand it unless they start doing it, and they won't see it. So I hope people um, start following the rules and become closer. And you, once you're closer with God, things always get better. That's my input.
So where do you live? In what state?
I'm in California.
I figured because I saw that little surfboard there.
Yeah, man.
There was this. I learned in Asia Torah in the old city, and there was a famous rabbi there known as the surfing rabbi. His name was Rabbi Yom Tov Glazer. This guy was weird. I think there was one other surfing rabbi somewhere else. But Ben Shapiro, I think, was from Venice. He went to like the Young Israel of Venice.
Oh, you want to use in Venice? Oh, no way.
Yeah, like originally.
He doesn't look like a guy from Venice.
Yeah, he doesn't look like a bodybuilder lifting weights or whatever. I guess. Dennis Prager, Jewish guy, religious, not Orthodox, but also California. Joseph Telushkin. Who are the famous rabbis from California? I guess I don't know. So when was the last time you were in Israel?
Oh man, unfortunately, when I was 5,
Uh,
I haven't done Aliyah yet. Every summer, I tell myself I'm going, but I end up getting busy and not going. And funny thing, I was gonna go last year, and then the war broke out. So
so I arrived last year, October 6th, a day before the war.
you are kidding me.
And everything shut down for 2 weeks. I was, almost everything. There was like two shawarma shops open on Ben Yehuda, like there in Jerusalem, and everything was shut down. Everything. And I'm going back again in September. I mean, I go every year for one year. I mean, I lived there for 5 years, but like, I don't encourage everyone to just hop into making aliyah. Like you can live there without making aliyah. Just check it out because it's not the easiest thing to make money there. You know,
Of course.
I know guys who've lived there for 30 years and they haven't made aliyah. So what they do, like they renew their passport every year. Like there's a way to change your visa from like a tourist visa to a student visa, and then yeah, the only benefits of making aliyah is being able to vote, like getting money from Nefesh B'Nefesh or these organizations that like give you one lump sum, which is not so much anymore, it's 5 grand I think,
Yeah.
and 6 months they give you Sal Klita. I think it's like $250 a month. Oh, and they give you Ulpan for free for 6 months, and I mean those are the only benefits. Oh, and health insurance, which is
Oh, okay.
apart from that, and you can be an American, support Israel, or even live in like work in Israel, and never officially immigrate. But,
My entire family actually lives in California. My dad's in Israel right now, but the rest are here in Cali. And all of them want to go back, but some of them can't afford it because there's not as much opportunity there.
just stay, yeah. Well, just to go, I mean, it's cheap. I mean, I don't know how it is in California, but I'm in South Florida. I mean, you can
Mhm.
get a round trip ticket for like $700.
Yeah.
Super cheap. But yeah, yeah. It's not Israel. It's being able to do Israel on the cheap. Because if you go to Israel just like a tourist, everyone's gonna rip you off blind.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If you know where to stay, like the little hacks, especially like in the religious world, there's like religious hostels for there's and also where to eat. You can go from Shabbos table to Shabbos table, and it won't cost you an arm and a leg. Right? I
Mhm.
mean, people think they're gonna go to Israel like birthright. I mean, like stay in fancy hotels and waste all the money you want, and some rich guy's gonna pay for it. Uh, yeah, there's a way to, I mean, get by on the cheap. Now, if you don't know anyone in Israel, it's kind of suck. I mean, because you may end up, I'm going to some Arab village, like by mistake.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, so I always tell people to go at least on a tour, something, I mean, like Bethlehem is next to Yerushalayim. I mean, you walk too far and you're in Bethlehem or East
Yeah.
Jerusalem. And,
Yeah.
just don't wear a kippah and you're fine. I mean, that's the rule. I mean,
You,
because people go to Ramallah all the time, but they'll just like one word keeper, like, and they'll go in with their American passport.
how long have you been doing Shabbat for?
Oh man, I converted. I converted 25 years ago.
From
So um, since then, I mean, I've been religious for 25 years. I mean, I'm 46 now.
what were you before?
Christian,
Wow. Okay.
Christian. I converted in Miami Beach, and then I made Aliyah, and then I honestly have a hard time with Israelis. It's just it's a different culture. Different culture. I mean, I
Definitely.
know very beautiful Israelis, but I don't know. I don't like people cutting in line, and I don't like being ripped off, and the whole spiel. So that's the main reason I left. But in Israel, you could just stick with Americans, which is what I did, which affects you learning Hebrew very fast. But yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I live in South Florida. I live in an Israeli community now.
That's good.
But
Yeah. Israeli environments, it's different for sure.
yeah, it's day and night, day and night. Like me, I don't know how you are politically, but I'm pretty much on the right. I'm pretty conservative.
Me too, man.
Yeah, yeah. So like we don't pull it. I don't know. As an American veteran, I don't put up with a lot. And to live in Israel, you have to put up with a lot, with the yelling and the fighting. I can't.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
That being said, like all the tough Jews moved to Israel. I mean, people think, that why do Jews in America, like, why don't they resemble King David? It's because all the tough Jews went to Israel. That's the truth, and it's a harsh environment. So I mean, I get it to some extent, but it's still different.
Do you believe one day all of us in America have to go back?
No, no. So there's a misconception that when Mashiach comes, everyone's going to go to Israel.
No,
So that's actually not the halacha. The halacha is that Jews are obligated to go to Israel 3 times a year. So maybe like you could say they'll go there temporarily to do tshuva. Like in the time of Ezra, when he brought them back from Babylon, they all did tshuva around this like mizbeach that they built, this thing. but there's no obligation for every Jew to live in Israel, right? There's just no halachic. Throughout Jewish history, the vast majority of Jews lived outside of the land. So I know there are many people who think, oh, go now or go later, but you're going to be forced to go. That's more like of a Chabad thing or something. I don't.
No, I wasn't talking about the Messiah. I was talking about with anti-Semitism that's growing crazy in America.
I don't know, man. It, it's weird. So like I'm very involved in the Republican Party, and I've seen a lot of people who used to be very Zionist now anti-Zionist. Christians,
Terrible.
because of this war.
That's terrible. Oh
I
man.
mean, look how they're attacking Ben Shapiro, and it's conservatives are attacking him.
Yeah,
This is
what's her name?
we
I
saw
used to be
before.
a big fan of her. What's her name? The black girl?
Candace Owens.
Candace. She was a very conservative Republican. I liked her a lot. And then she started
She
flipping.
started questioning. I
Yeah.
wouldn't call her an anti-Semite, but she started questioning, and because of her, like, some people went off the railings and are anti-Israel now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a problem. Uh, it's this war. You know,
War is
the
negative.
well, the Palestinians have gotten like great advisors on how to push a cause via social media, right? All you have to do to garner support for a movement is just say women and children are being harmed, right? And everybody wants you to stop no matter what. And it's this feminine approach to making serious decisions in the world that you're led by your emotions and not necessarily by some standard that has to be upheld, which is the
Exactly.
more traditional masculine approach, right? During World War II, if if we would have stopped because they were, like German women or German children dying, then the world would have been lost to the Nazis. It's so
Yeah.
silly. It's so upside down.
Yeah.
Um, I honestly want the war to end, but because Israel finishes the job, right? But I do want it to end. I don't think anyone doesn't. No one wants to prolong this,
Exactly.
just because. I think the world has a very short memory, so all this is gonna be forgotten until there's another.
Not only that, the world has gotten a lot softer. The new generations are consumed by technology, and they're not the same kids as maybe me and you, and not definitely not from the 50s and 60s. But I think, yeah, the world's just got softer, and they don't people don't understand what war is today. They just see, and another thing, this is actually the first war, I believe, that the world has been able to see through their phones. Technology has played a huge role in this war. Everybody gets to see all the crap and the negativity. Back in the Afghanistan war, you couldn't really see too much, and before that, there was no phones. So
Well, more importantly, people lie more than ever now, or have the ability to lie on such a grand scale. The bulk of the reports people get online are unsubstantiated. Some idiot has a blog, puts something up, and then before you know it, in a debate that evening on CNN, someone is quoting it like a source. It's like truth is so important to keeping this world moving forward. I always say that to Muslims, honesty is not a value to them, right? At least because this is what the left accuses uh, conservatives of all the time, because we hold ourselves to such a high standard that we at least first try to tell the truth, right? But if you have no understanding of biblical ethics, what would keep you on that straight path? So it seems that just like the left, Muslims will do anything to win, including lie. And that's not something that I want to be a part of. Like with my group, I don't want Jews to lie. I don't want Israelis to exaggerate. You know,
exactly.
and and I'm sure both sides, they do it, but I'd like to think that we do it less. Um, and this is why it's hard. Goebbels said that if you repeat a lie long enough, people won't be able to tell the difference between like the lie and the truth. And
As you've seen for sure, I know you've been across all the lives here on TikTok, and all the pro Pally, pro H group guys just spewing hate and lies nonstop, and it's like they've recruited the left, all the left, to join them and believe all this terrible things about Israel and to poison them. It's terrible, and it's just sad because most of the Jewish people, have jobs, right? Have work, are successful. They aren't allowed to go on TikTok 8, 12 hours a day. And on the other hand, there's, for some reason, most of the Muslim population in the world are teaming up against Israel, and they're just flooding the phones with negativity and anti-Israel stuff. And how do you beat that? I mean, how do you counter that? It's sad, and we
I
don't.
don't think I don't think Muslims could do it alone. It's because, like you said, they pander to the left, and these career activists on the left, from Antifa, or the people who spend their day just doxing people they disagree with.
Yeah,
It's a source that's so well funded that I mean, normal people don't have the time for this. Like you said, people who work, people who have families, who has time, to just like spam, spam, spam. But
exactly.
it's hard. I mean, but the left has been doing it for a while, which is kind of weird how religious people, i.e., Muslim people, pander to a group that doesn't share its values. Because the heck does the leftists have in common with the Muslim?
Have you heard the term useful idiots?
Yeah, yeah, that's a communist term for
I mean, they've even gotten the chance to rally up the LGBT community, and they ate it up with a spoon. They have no idea what the Middle East is about, and they're out in the streets just trashing Israel, not knowing that they would have a better life in that country than an Islamic country. And that's how brainwashed and that's how powerful the Muslims have. It just drives me insane. It's crazy that these things are going on. How much they've been pushing this stuff on the internet, and everyone's just eating it up.
most people don't know that Israel actually gives asylum to GAY individuals of that region for free. I mean, they bring them into the country, give them citizenship just to keep them safe. If you don't know anything about a conflict, you should at least assume that the most tolerant side is not the aggressor. But anyways, I don't want to make this whole show about politics.
Yeah,
Let's, uh, I mean, like, thanks for stopping by. But I'm just gonna try to bring some religious people just to talk about religious topics. But, bro, I mean, I appreciate you.
definitely. It was good talking.
Sorry, bro. All right, yeah. Let's keep this a little bit religious because I do have a sign where it says no politics. So there's guys. Topic's the same. You don't have to agree with everything to be able to be decent and have a discussion. I'm sure a lot of people don't agree with me encouraging decent people to consider becoming Jewish. It's clearly a numbers game. So Judaism might be for you, it might not be for you. I don't know. I don't know if that still constitutes as proselytizing. I don't think it's a dirty word to proselytize or to encourage people to think like you do. Good ideas versus bad ideas. That is what we do. All right, Torah Judaism. Let's see. Haters. Guys, take the show. First of all, like the show. Like. Share. But share with the haters. Trust me, everybody knows. Like, every Jewish person has an atheist in their family. Everybody knows someone who talks crap about me. Share this with them. Yeah, share with them. Share with the haters. Let's see. Yeah, so we were talking about the idea of that it's better to publicly break laws than to deny that laws exist. There's so many people, when they find something in their life that may go against the Torah, they'll in some way say that, oh, it's not in the Torah. Instead of saying, you know what, I'll bite the bullet. I'll have to deal with this when I meet my maker. Fine. I think that's that stoic approach, that responsible approach of saying, I know where the standard is. I know that, but I know in this point in my life I can't meet that standard. I'm not going to deny that standard exists. Fine, right? You eat that cheeseburger. You drive on Shabbos, whatever. But you don't deny that standard is there. That lack of deniability is what keeps you religious, or at least allows you to continue identifying as a religious person. You still fear God, but you understand Um, we're not perfect, and anyone who walks around saying either listen to me, follow me because I'm so perfect, right, is typically someone who's less perfect than you are. It's not losing sight of the finish line, losing sight of the goal, and that's what's the goal? Leaving this life with more good deeds than bad deeds overall. And I think if people saw things like this more, then we would have less atheists, right? Why do we have these? I mean, so many atheists? Because essentially, what they are wounded theists, people who have been mistreated by like other religious people to such an extent, right? With the whole attitude, all or nothing, that they just said, okay, fine, nothing, instead of entertaining this perspective. How do you feel about the arrow strings in Brooklyn? I guess that's what BK is. So some people hold that you can't even have an Eruv there. But yeah, no, the strings are called the Surat Petach. I don't know. From what I learned, it doesn't constitute an actual door, which is what the halacha says. Whatever. Do I hold by it? Again, I mean, I strive to be normal. What's up, Lewis?
I heard you talking about your view on conversion. So let me ask you a couple of questions on it. Slightly different than the standard take you have on it. I get where you come from and saying it's in the Talmud. Got it. Now, how many other rabbis, if any, support your generalized view of conversion? How many support a significantly decreased, I'll call it, time and training, for lack of another term, for that? And lastly, if you are, so to speak, on an island on your own, why do you stay there instead of finding, I'll call it a middle ground that is more conducive to your perspective?
Okay. So there's only one view regarding conversions, right? I mean, this is the only way I can debate Judaism because there's a way to win a debate. If something appears in the Mishnah, right, or in the Gemara, which is the commentary to the Mishnah, that is what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to deviate from the right or to the left from what the Sanhedrin developed on this matter on how we do conversions. Any rabbi, and anyone listen, to this could tell this to their rabbi, who differs with my approach to conversion is breaking the law. And I would be happy, and I've done it many times, to have a public debate proving it. If you ask the average rabbi if what's done today is what appears in the Talmud, they'll be like, well, not really, because now we have other problems. We have a state that gives out citizenship to anyone who converts, so we surely can't have people from India and poor parts of the world just coming to convert just to improve their economic situation. All of the above. But they will acknowledge that what's done today is not what was done back then. Now, what makes you a rabbi is that you're able to give over the law as it appears in the Mishnah. You're able to regurgitate the law. That's what it says, right? It's not your job to reinterpret that law because we don't have any authority to do so. When the Sanhedrin was disbanded, these laws are set in stone and they can't change. This is why we study the Talmud nowadays. The reason we still study the Talmud is because rabbinic laws from the Sanhedrin cannot change. So I would take the stand that they are for whatever other reasons, are rewriting the law. They're going above and beyond. Any rabbi I've ever had the dialogue with won't deny that what I teach is exactly what appears in the Rambam, in Shulchan Aruch, and like in the Talmud. It's exactly what appears. Right? The only example of how to accept converts is someone coming to Hillel to convert, and it says Hillel converts him immediately, and then he begins to teach him. And this is on converts who came with insincere motives, saying, "Convert me that I don't accept the oral law. Convert me that I don't that you make me the high priest." And Hillel said, "Fine." He converts him, and then he begins to teach him. This is the standard. Now, why isn't that done nowadays? You'll have to bring up some non-Mishnaic source to justify it. So that's why I know I'm right. Now, in terms of being lenient or strict, in terms of what's done today, my understanding or my behavior is lenient compared to the strictness that's done today. I don't, Like if someone wants to make it a little harder, I think it's not a big deal as long as you at least allow conversions. If you at least allow it, I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world if it takes 2 years. Okay, I mean I do think it's already on the fringe of harming a convert. I mean that we have a mitzvah in the Torah. It says hager lo tone, like don't mistreat a convert, or in this case, someone from the outside who's docile, who wants to come in. So it's already bordering that. But the average rabbi doesn't do conversions. Probably less than 1% of rabbis in the world will even think of doing a conversion. So that itself, that you're in South America and some rabbi says, no, like my community doesn't allow me to do conversions. And what are you supposed to do to someone who wants to become part of your people? Just push them away? I mean, at a time where everyone hates us? Stupid. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, you've skipped one part, and that is, are there any other rabbis who share your generalized view?
Yeah, I mean, I think Rabbi Yonatan Alevi in San Diego agrees. I think Rabbi Chaim Ovadia, I think he's currently in Baltimore. He has many classes on YouTube also. Rabbi Yonatan Alevi has a lot of classes on YouTube. I'm trying to think YouTube rabbis or social media rabbis. Rabbi Kolakowski, upstate New York. I mean, there aren't too many rabbis who get involved in conversions to begin with, but I'm talking about rabbis who actually perform the conversion.
Right.
I would assume maybe Rabbi Mark Angel, maybe. I don't, most people don't take the stance because you're taking a stand, right? Which by definition means you're going to be made to look unpopular. So those are the only ones I could think of that are on social media, apart from like my very close friends, like Rabbi Yosef Eliyav, but he's close of a friend, for me to mention. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, what we're doing is not new, by the way. This is what we're trying to do is bring back Judaism, bring back the old. Judaism has been corrupted by politics. This whole 2-3 year conversion regiment is post the establishment of the State of Israel. Post the establishment of the State of Israel. So since 1948 or before 1948, people converted in a week. It wasn't an issue. The idea that people would want to become Jewish, first of all, even today, is a bit absurd. Okay, unless I guess they come across one of my videos and I try to show them how purposeful Judaism is. Apart from all the Kabbalah that's being taught, that just reinforces this victim ideology amongst the Jewish people. Most people don't want to become Jewish. And there's many Jews who leave Judaism. There's more people who leave Judaism every day than become Jewish. So just based on that fact, it would be silly for us to make it impossible for people to join when there's so many people who want to leave. Right? And I get it. So we want sincere people, but have an open door policy. But most Orthodox synagogues don't have an open door policy in the world. For conversions, meaning their synagogues in Brazil or whatever, they just don't let them in. Welcome the war. Hopefully this is
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I had a quick question. So you're not a Christian, right? You're specifically Jewish?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm reading through the Talmud, and I've read Josephus, The Antiquity of Jews, and a lot of the other books. Are you familiar with the parable of Rav and his disciple, the Hasid?
Tell it to me. It's like, and I'll tell you if I heard it.
Okay, so in the Talmud, you know what the word Hasidic means when it's in reference to a Hasidic Jew?
Well, not in the Talmud. I mean, a Hasid in the Talmud means a pious person. Like a Hasidic Jew or a Hasid
Correct.
today, like means a member of the Hasidic movement, which is from the 16th century?
Right. The original etymology of the word is someone who's entered the inner sanctum of the law, right?
Like a pious person. Just means
Like not just, but piety in the Talmud is defined as someone who has entered the inner core of the law. For instance, a judge who is obeying the law would find a poor man guilty because he broke the law, but a Hasidic judge or a pious judge or a judge kind of not above the law but inside the law would not only find him guilty to satisfy the law, but would then pay the fee for him out of mercy, so that the law is satisfied but also mercy is granted. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense that it just means pious, but not that, it's like it's some inner circle of like pious Illuminati in the Jewish world. I mean,
No,
it's just.
no. Well, have you read? I assume you've read the Mishnah and the Talmud, right? Okay. So I might be wrong. I'm still reading through it. It's a 7-year read. It's a very long process. So my understanding, there's a parable of a rabbi named Rav and his disciple. And my understanding is this, that the story goes like this. There are some workers and they're carrying wine jars, and one of them drops the jar and breaks it. And so the rich man basically goes to the courts or the synagogue or the Sanhedrin or whatever, and he's like, you guys need to make them pay for this spilled wine. And so that the law would be satisfied, they had to find them guilty because that's what happened, and like sentence them to pay it. However, this rabbi Rav tells his disciple, because of your nobility, because of your like standing as a Hasid, because you're inside of the law, your piety is such that this becomes law for you, that you have to basically pay for this. Even though it's not your obligation or responsibility, you're basically obligated by your spiritual nobility of sorts. And so the disciple says, so this is the law that I would pay this price for them? And he says, yes, for you, it is the law. And he says, okay. And so he pays the price. And then the workers come and they say, well, thank you. But we also need to get paid for the day because we're poor workers, and he didn't pay us because we broke the jar. And so the disciple goes to Rav again and says, listen, is this the law? And he said, again, for you, a Hasid, because you're Hasidic, by the true, like that, the old definition of the word, this stuff's 2,000 years old, not the modern, what it would mean to be a Hasidic Jew today, politically speaking. Like you said, it's been infiltrated by politics. But the original term would obligate him under law, even though it's a kind of above the law or like within the law, because of his spiritual nobility and standing as a disciple of this great rabbi. It becomes law for him that he has to pay their wage on top of it. This story from the Talmud is very clearly talking about God and Jesus, where Christ pays our price for us because of his glory, because of his great standing and his mercy. God himself is the ultimate Hasid.
I mean, I don't know what the question is. I mean, is it a pious thing to do that? This actually falls into a gray area of the law, meaning that these are workers who broke something that belonged to someone else, but they did it by mistake. So in Judaism, you don't get punished when you do things by mistake. However, this is not that type of violation. This has to do with damages, right? I mean, you broke someone's property. You could have been more careful, but regardless, you still have to pay for it, whether you have money or not. So it was clearly above the law, going above and beyond for anyone to step in and be sympathetic and pay the debt of these individuals. Whether it's in some way is similar to what Jesus did, fine. I mean, it's nice all the way. I don't think anyone would call Jesus a mean individual as he's portrayed in the New Testament. I mean, that's not. I don't think that's the objection a religious Jew would make on Jesus. I acknowledge that he went.
Jews call him a criminal and a heretic, right? I mean, that's pretty much worse than a bad person.
Oh, I don't endorse anyone who says anything negative about Jesus. Anything.
That's interesting.
In the New Testament,
I kind of hated him as a criminal.
Yeah, so we can't really validate that what happened in the New Testament actually happened on behalf of the Sadducees and the Pharisees. But if it did happen, then I believe they were wrong. I mean, I believe that Jesus did not deserve to be unalived. Absolutely not. And it portrays them for what they were. They were corrupted. They were hypocritical. And it's not a coincidence that there is not one rabbi in the Talmud that ever identified as a Pharisee. Not one rabbi in the Talmud. right? In the Talmud itself. I understand in the book of
That's
Acts.
interesting. Were they Essenes? Were they Sadducees?
No. I mean, they
They
were
must have
just
been
ordinary
Sadducees
Jews.
because they.
I mean, they didn't have to become
Huh.
part of one of these groups. But the Talmud speaks about Pharisees. It says there were 7 different groups of Pharisees, and it would make fun of the Pharisees. It, it would talk about them like running into walls because they didn't want to look in the direction of a woman. That means they were too heavenly good that they were no earthly good. That they weren't earthly good. But yeah. I mean, the idea of Jesus in the New Testament doesn't offend me. I just don't believe he's God or the Messiah. So
Do you
anyone, yep,
do you think he was claiming to be the Messiah?
according to what appears in the New Testament, yes.
So, and I agree with you. I'm confused as a Jew that doesn't believe Jesus is the Messiah. How are you saying he never did anything wrong if you're saying he's lying about being the Messiah?
Well, no, I never said that he was sinless. I believe he's human, and we're all a mixed bag of good deeds and bad deeds. Okay, but I don't think that anything he did deserved the death penalty.
What the law of the Torah and the Mishnah would say that anyone who claims to be God is a heretic and the penalty is death.
It doesn't say that.
So under the Mishnah, so the law of the Old Testament, my understanding, and I, I'm shaky on some of this stuff, so I appreciate you correcting me. My understanding is that the 10 Commandments expanded out in like 613 laws and eventually got codified from oral tradition law into the Mishnah. So it basically becomes, those 613 laws became even more nuanced, like things
It's not in
like,
the Mishnah.
well, what,
There's
like
many
what happened?
rabbis throughout Jewish history that claim to be God also, or an extension of God, or the essence of God in bodily form, and no one said death penalty on him. This is why. If he was unalived because he may have claimed to be God, that would be going against Jewish law.
Really?
Yes.
Whoa. And I'm just trying to understand this. So like, the 10 Commandments turns to 613 laws, and then they need to apply it to daily life. Like, for instance, well, this guy set a fire, and that fire burned my house, but in that house was a drawer of deeds to lands. And so, even though he didn't destroy the other lands I own, he destroyed my ownership, my ability to prove ownership. And so, the damages are extreme, and he needs to pay for the land I own on the other side of town because I can no longer prove that I own it because the fire destroyed the deed, right? So so they're like, okay, we need to address this. And then they would argue theoretical things like, what if a tower starts to float by itself? And like, what if a mouse, right? Like all these famous
I
arguments.
mean, this is from the Torah, by the way. And the Torah, God tells Moses in the Torah to establish a court of 70 elders. It tells us in Deuteronomy chapter 17 that in all areas of dispute, we have to go to the judges, to the priests, and the Levites of those days. This is the Sanhedrin that Jesus was presented before, right? Like in Matthew 23, when it says that like the scribes and the Pharisees, they sit in Moses' seat, do as they tell you, but don't do as they do, means that the
Right.
seat of Moses was the authority that came down from Moses to judge and to institute rabbinic law or laws to protect the original laws, like lighting Hanukkah candles. We have an obligation to light Hanukkah candles. It's not in the Torah. We consider it part of the oral law. So yeah, no, they were in some way sanctioned to create these man-made laws.
So like, would it be Torah to put a man, unalive a man for carrying sticks on the Sabbath?
Yes, it would be. Because the Torah prohibits us to do what's called malacha. So malacha is creative labor. The judges had the authority, they were tasked with the authority to determine what that actually means. However, according to Jewish law, in order to unalive anyone for breaking the Sabbath, first you have to give them what's called hasra. You have to warn them first to make sure they know what they're getting into, because we don't punish people for things they do by mistake. You need 2 witnesses, and if after all that he says, yes, I know what I'm doing, and thus I still choose to violate, right, then that's when the death penalty applies. So that's how it's understood in Rabbinic Judaism.
So you're saying though, and I'm not trying to like push back. I'm curious. You know a lot more about this than I do. I'm trying to understand. You could be put, unalive for carrying sticks, let's say with a warning on the Sabbath, any kind of creative work. And I understand that they defined their whole thing was like, what does it mean to work? What's the difference between regular work and creative work or accidental work or, necessary work or whatever? They tried to define all these different things. what you're saying that you could be unalive for carrying sticks, but not for claiming to be God? Like,
Correct.
I
Correct. Well, the
huh.
reason why, I mean, I'll tell you why, is because God specifically says in the five books of Moses, right? Because there's an incident, there's an instance where a man is carrying sticks on the Sabbath. Moses doesn't know what to do. He goes back to the tent of meeting. God tells him he needs to be unalive. So this is what the Bible says. Now, in terms of someone claiming to be an extension of God, because what Jesus is accused for or of is what we call shituf, which is some sort of partnership. He doesn't claim to be a foreign God, right? I mean, he claims to be an extension of God the Father. So that itself, it may be heretical, it may be silly, but there is no death penalty for it because it's just a claim. Now, there is a death penalty if you would encourage people to follow other gods. That is clear from the Torah. But only because you claim to be, God incarnate, or God is within you. Yeah, no, there's no death penalty for that.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that. So they violated their own law in killing him.
Correct. And they actually killed him because according to Jewish law, like if there's a train coming and you push someone in front of that train, like even though the train is what's unaliving them, you're liable. So when people say it's the Romans that did it, like people who say that don't know Jewish law.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was definitely the Jews. Um, wow, man, that's wild. So what are your thoughts on Jesus? You're not a Christian, obviously.
Right? I'm not a
What do you
Christian.
think?
I think if he did exist, he was clearly a decent individual. I don't believe that the person that appears in the Talmud, known as Yeshua Notri, Jesus, is the same guy. Like he existed
Yeah,
150
I
years
agree.
before.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Also, it calls him like a conjurer, black magic. Jesus was clearly a righteous individual. Clearly, clearly. Even when they were about to stone him, he asked himself, like, "Why do you stone me?" And he says, "Because a mere man claims to be God," which makes no sense according to Jewish law. They would stone someone for that. But then even Jesus tries to deny it. He quotes the book of Psalms, and it says, like, doesn't it say that you are all gods? Meaning the word Elohim means powerful ones. So the judges of Israel, essentially righteous people, are also considered gods. So even Jesus tried to walk it back that that's not what he claimed to be. So I'm not convinced that the Jesus portrayed by the Catholic Church is the same Jesus that existed.
What is? Yeah, yeah. The Catholics are heretics. Like that's for sure.
Oh, well,
Um,
wait, hold on. I mean, you're doing to them like what the Jews are doing to you. All right, like
well, no. So I've read all the books. I've read the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Book of Mormon, the Catholic Apocrypha, the Gnostic Gospels. I'm reading the Talmud now. I've read the histories. I have a doctorate in. I'm a medical doctor, and in medical school, ironically, I took 7 years and I just read all the books because I wanted to. I was an atheist. I wanted to figure out what was right, what was wrong. I realized something very simple. All the books say the same thing: be a good person, live a good life, do the right thing, and you'll be okay. The Jews and the Muslims add on to it. You have to believe in one God, so you can't be polytheistic in addition to being a quote good person. But you're saved by some form of mixed virtue and faith. The Bible, and specifically the 66 books of the Protestant Bible, are the only ones out of all the books, and Jesus is the only one who says the exact opposite. You're saved by grace through faith, not works, but for works. And even for those without works, faith is credited as righteousness. And so there's a difference in the salvific message, and the Talmud promotes the saved by works message just like everything else on earth. Jesus alone is the only one that tells you the exact opposite and what you don't want to hear, that you're saved as a free gift from God, separate from your own piety.
I like the Salvific. I never heard.
So I
I
would
mean,
say
I know
there's a
people that
unique.
play around it. I'll say redemptic or like. Well, anyways, so the truth is, the five books of Moses doesn't talk about that form of salvation. I know that Jews.
Oh, it does. Oh, it does. The
What?
Exodus, brother. So the
Yeah.
blood on the door is Christ on the cross.
No, but
It
that's a
doesn't matter
foreshadowing.
about the
Literally.
goodness of the person.
No, literally. I
What's
mean.
that?
I mean, that's more of a
Okay,
foreshadowing. I mean, it doesn't literally talk
it's
about that.
all forfeit.
I'm sorry?
Right. So the lamb, when Isaac goes up with Abraham, the reason that the ram is stuck in the thicket is the same reason Jesus is wearing a crown of thorns.
You get
He's
it.
saying, "I
You
am
have
the
to say
ram."
the reason is
The
because it's not
clothing.
literal. The reason
What's
you
that,
have to
brother?
say the reason is because it's not literal. it's hard for me to believe that that
It's
God
literal.
worked with
It's literal
foreshadowing.
spiritual. It's not. It's literal physical, not literal spiritual.
No, I know,
The
but the
Old
only way you
Testament's
can
literal
prove it is via
physical.
commentary. It's hard for me to assume that God's going to punish someone for something that's not literally there. That you need a, like spiritual lenses to see it. Like you don't see that the ram is Jesus, right? Like the ram caught in the thicket, like the blood over the doorpost is the blood of Jesus. Why would God play these games? The
Because we're
Torah is
children. He's
literal.
teaching. It's a picture book for kids. It's literally like we're overthinking it. It's very simple. God
Yeah.
is teaching us like monkeys, like we're idiots because we
Yeah.
are, and we
It's
still
so
screw it up.
simple. I mean, it's so simple that we never came to this conclusion till Christianity. So you're telling me for 2,000 years, right? Jews didn't see it till Jesus showed up on the scene and Paul came and interpreted everything. It's not so simple.
Well,
You
I
know,
mean, doesn't the Bible say, and I think even in the Old Testament, that they're spiritually blind? In other words, they will be partially blinded for a time, and the
I
first
don't
is
think it says
last.
that. I don't think
And
it
so the
says that in the Torah.
Jews will be saved by the Gentiles, is what the New Testament seems to say.
Yeah. No. So the Torah says that only if we keep God's commandments, only then are we God's treasured nation, right?
Correct.
It's not,
So,
so
like, saved by works.
we're distinguished by our actions. That's the plain understanding. And in this case, the plain understanding is king, because the idea that you end up in hell because you're not philosophically sophisticated enough to see everything
That's
Paul's
not.
talking about
No,
is
that's not. It's not Gnosticism. It's not. It's not obtaining, hitting knowledge. That's
not
also a
literal.
work.
For sure, it's not literal.
It's so. As you said, the Jews believe in saved by works. Keep the law.
No, no,
The
no, not saying
delusion
Jews
of
don't. Okay, the Torah doesn't mention that form of salvation. The Torah says that you shall keep the law in order to have rain in its proper season, see your children grow old, and have peace. Okay, it never talks about heaven or hell. To have the idea of salvation to begin with, because the whole notion of salvation in Christianity is to save you from hell and secure you heaven. But if that notion is not in the 5 books of Moses, then that means the idea of salvation, the Christian idea, is a new idea.
Okay, well, I see where you're going with that, and I kind of want to hit a couple quick examples if you don't mind. I'll concede to let you have that point. I don't know of any verses in the Torah specifically that talk about hell. So the Old Testament stories are all the same story. You're always saved by garments, right? Adam and Eve weren't saved by their works. Matter of fact, they tried to work to create fig leaf garments, and it was insufficient. God came down and gave them garments of leather to clothe them. We see the same thing with David cutting off the garments of King Saul. We see the same thing with Joseph and the coat of many colors. We see the same thing with the woman who touches the hem of his garment. Noah is naked and is covered by his sons, right? Rahab wears garments and it's a mistaken identity. Jacob wears the clothing of Esau and is given the birthright. Joshua is tricked by clothing and gives the Canaanite citizenship into Israel. It's literally in every single story that we are clothed in something. Even in Zechariah, right? It says in Zechariah 3, it says, "See, I've taken away your sin by giving you these clothing." And Lazarus, come out of the grave and put on new clothes. And the wedding feast parable, you're kicked out of the wedding feast because you weren't wearing the right clothes. And Revelation, these are the ones who have washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb. And Genesis
No, again,
49.
it's
right?
not literal. It's not literal. You came to that conclusion because someone
No, it's in
connected the dots.
every single story, brother. It's God,
What
even
you
in
need,
Adam
so
and
is when
Eve.
God tells you what he expects from you. When God says all you have to do is keep these commandments and you'll be my treasured nation. Why do you need theologians trying to connect dots? All they're doing is in some way an act of revisionism, saying that this now becomes authoritative instead of just being an opinion. I have no issue for Paul to say, look at this great, like analogy I put together in these books, right? Sounds interesting enough, but now what you're saying is that if you see it, you go to hell.
We're children, brother. God's our Father. He's given us parables. Jesus spoke in parables. There's nothing wrong with parables.
No, there is something wrong with parables if your salvation, your eternity, right, depends on it. Then it's no longer a parable, it's a gauntlet.
Wait, so hold up, and I'm not trying to be rude, but like it's a little bit of irony here. You're saying that your salvation depends on perfectly fulfilling the law. I'm saying that all that really.
No, I never said perfectly fulfilling anything. I said that the notion of salvation doesn't appear in the Torah. It's the notion of being validated by a good God and tolerated in his land is dependent on you keeping the Torah good enough. Good enough. But the reason we know the notion of
God's not a good enough God. God requires perfection. He's holy.
then you have to toss out the book of Ezra. Then you have to toss out the book of Ezra and Nehemiah that talks about God redeeming the children of Israel in Babylon because they were good enough to be redeemed.
Was Lot saved from Sodom and Gomorrah? Would you call that salvation?
No. These stories of Lot and Abraham, this is before the Torah was given. Okay, after the Torah was given is where the do's and don'ts came in. Now God tells us what he expects from us.
What would you? Okay, let's go to the Torah specifically then. There is salvation in the Torah. There's the angel of death, right? It comes by one time. It represents the wages of sin.
This is before the Torah was given. You're talking about in Egypt before they even knew of the God of Israel. After the Torah was given,
he's the same God. He's always been the same God. He's never not been the same God.
No, but he judges humans differently by what standard he has given them. Once he gave you a certain standard, you can't walk that back.
So the blood is grace, and putting it on the door is faith. That's it. We're saved by grace through faith.
Right, and that's a foreshadowing. That's a foreshadowing. After all that happened, right, it all boiled down to keeping God's commandments as you received them on Mount Sinai, or the transition.
John 6:29 says the work of God is to believe in the one he sent. In other words, faith again. Putting the blood on the door is what saves you.
And that's what John says. And that's his interpretation to what he considers to be hints and riddles, right, and secrets. Right? It says clearly in the Torah, in Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 29, I think it says, the secret things are for God, and only what he has revealed is for us and our children to do. The law, right?
Yeah, I get you. I mean, James 2 and all versus Romans 4 as well. I mean, you could even make that argument from the New Testament. But does the angel of death come back a second time? Do you need to keep sacrificing lambs, or is it a one-time event?
I'm sorry. Can you say it again?
The angel of death, does it come back a second time, or is it a one-time event?
Oh, in Egypt, that was a one-time event. Because he was trying
so that's
to
salvation. You're saved from the wages of sin by the blood on the door, Christ on the cross. Like Christianity is just coming out of Exodus and Genesis.
That's a riddle. I understand. I don't have an issue with you believing that, by the way. Okay. The problem I have is when people build a church around it and say that you are no longer saved if you don't accept my rendition of what I think these riddles are saying. Right?
I believe the Bible says that, right? The gospel.
Yeah, but I don't believe in the Gospels. I believe in the Torah.
No, like the Old Testament. The pagans are not saved because they don't believe in the right God. They're polytheistic, so they're damned to hell because they believe the wrong thing.
It's a New Testament idea. I'm not saying Jews don't believe in
the Canaanites believed in paganism, so they're not saved because the Egyptians had multiple gods, and so because of their beliefs, they're damned, right? Whether you believe in hell or not, they're going to be judged by God because of their beliefs.
Well, this is before the Torah was given. I don't think we know exactly how God adjudicated the world back then. I mean, the Torah was given.
This isn't the Torah.
No, Exodus chapter 12, according to the narrative, right? That's when we received the instructions, the do's and don'ts from God. Anything they did beforehand, we could only speculate how God judged the rest of the world, right? I mean, on what criteria did he use to institute the flood, right? Or to allow the flood? We don't know. We don't know. I mean, some rabbis will theorize there were 7 laws of Noah. I don't know. God is not a God of confusion. God told us clearly in the Torah, no riddles, nothing, right? No interpretation needed on how to please God. Keep his instructions, which, by the way, include faith in God. Faith, or to know God, as the first of the 10 statements, is actually part of the law. He tells us what he requires from us. That's it. Now, if you believe, what?
Moses says that too. He says, I've put it in front of you. It's not far away that you have to go across an ocean to find it. It's right here in front of you. These are the laws, like written down. And then he basically says, but I know you, and I know you're not going to keep these laws. He's basically saying, like, here's what God expects, and you're going to fall short. The point of the law in the New Testament is to show you your need for God, that you can't fulfill it.
And it's hard for me to believe that you think that the average saved Christian sins any less.
Oh no, they don't. My gosh, like I'm made more
you're
aware
blind
of my
to your own sin. So even though you're blind to your own sin, doesn't mean those sins don't
blind
exist.
To my sin.
What you're saying is that you continue to sin, but God doesn't hold them against you. So that
just
takes
like Jacob,
creative writing to come to that conclusion.
No, man, it's Jacob and Esau. I'm wearing the clothing of Christ. I'm wearing the clothing of my older brother, for my father doesn't see my sin because of a mistaken identity.
But it makes ethically no sense. It's like someone in a casino, let's say. It's someone. We have someone in a casino who has a terrible losing record, right? Terrible losing record. He's going to continue making the wrong bets, but suddenly the casino manager is going to make it that even though he loses and continues to lose, we're going to act like he wins. And then we're going to expect the audience watching this movie, right, to consider that logical. I know, and that's a New Testament story.
Brother, like the father. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Well, hey, I'm almost to church, and I've got about 120,000 people. If you want to do a live, I really, I don't know, I really like the discourse. I've had a great conversation with you. If you want to do a live sometime, let me know.
Anytime. Thank you.
Yo.
Yes, sir. Hey, God bless you, brother.
All right, bro. Take it easy. What's up, Big Goose? Big Goose?
Yeah, it's Big Goose.
Big Goose. That's what's up. All right. So, where do you live, Big Goose?
In Illinois, but I'm from California.
Oh, you're from California, but you live in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Where, Chicago?
It's close by Chicago, yeah.
So you are an Orthodox Jew.
No, I'm not Jewish.
You are a Wahhabi Muslim.
No, I actually don't have a religion.
Okay.
I'm more so of a spiritual person.
All right. Yeah.
Whatever religion is real, whatever God is real, I'll find out when I die. So
Right. All right. I mean, I can dig that. I think a lot of people are gonna suffer because of it. Like when people say that they're spiritual, but they don't really belong to any religion, means that their behavior is not altered in one bit by that spirituality. Because spirituality doesn't make you better. You know, it makes you deep. Right? You know.
personally, I'm gonna say this: if you're a better person because of religion, to me, you're always gonna be a shitty person.
Oh.
Because if you had to find a religion to be a better person, that right there proves to me that you didn't have enough. How's I say? For one, you didn't have enough foresight or awareness to know you were a shitty person, right? And that shit needed to change.
Right.
You didn't really do it on your own. You
No, I
only
get it.
did it because you fear biblical consequence.
So
You're not doing it because you really want to. You're just doing it because you don't want to go to hell. And I know I'm right. So
for whatever reason people do it, I think it's healthy to seek mentorship. Mentorship. Whether it's the Boys and Girls Club, whether it's converting to Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, the idea that you think that you're going to be a better man than your father alone, right, is the delusion that has unalived, so many people in the Soviet Union and in places that they thought that they could reinvent the wheel ethically. We can't do it alone. We need guidance. Consider religion poor man's philosophy, okay, but bow your knee to something.
okay, I'm not saying that I don't feel as if there's a higher power than myself. It's not what that means. And the fact that you think that's what that means you don't know too much about spirituality. Secondly, right, I have a lot of mentors. I've been wrestling since I was 4. My wrestling coach is a mentor. I've been playing football since I was 5. He is also my mentor. My boss at my current job, which by the way is my dream job I've wanted ever since I was a little boy, is also a mentor. My father, who was an ex-Marine, is also a mentor. My mother is also another mentor of mine. I have plenty of that.
You wouldn't throw Jesus or Muhammad or Moses into that because it'll make you look primitive.
No, I don't give a fuck how it makes me look because I don't like people. I don't really give a fuck about other people's opinions of me.
Yeah, but you care
Because
about your mentors. Okay, so someone.
because they matter to me. Anyone who doesn't matter to me, their opinion of how I am really doesn't matter because
Well, I get it, but we're looking at the bigger picture. I mean, how about someone who didn't have those people, but all they had was church? All they had was the Bible. Would you saying, like, you know what, you can't do it on your own, so throw that Bible away because you're a wimp?
No, I didn't say right now. If you need to find a religion to be better, I feel as if
Most people that I've met that have done this, there might be exceptions to the rule, but I haven't met those exceptions yet. But I'm gonna acknowledge that there probably is some, right? Um, Almost every person that I've ever met who had to seek religion to be a better person is still to this day a shitty person,
What are you
even
talking about?
after.
You haven't met people locked up, who were horrible people when they went into jail and came out a
Yes,
lot more decent. I'm not saying perfect when they came out of jail. I mean, religion, I know a lot of
there's
people.
no such thing as perfect, but the thing is, like, decent. Okay, cool, right? Because some of the smartest people I know are in prison. Some of the smartest people I know, right? And I understand that when they came out because they found a religion, they were better people. Those people I am not referring to. The people that I am referring to know exactly who I'm referring to because they are those people. I'm not referring to people who are actually genuinely good people because they found Jesus or because they found Muhammad.
Hmm. All right.
I'm not talking about those people.
I would be scared to live in a world where we didn't have Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, because I see how the blood and carnage and that people who try to reinvent the wheel ethically for themselves, who try to decipher what's right and wrong for themselves, I think they cause more harm than someone who just sticks to the New Testament or the Quran or the
What's
Torah.
crazy is since I'm a history nut, 98% of all wars that have ever existed started because of religion. Crazy, right? But they
So
don't do harm. That's literally them
okay,
doing harm.
so
But yeah, nice try though. I feel like you knew what you said,
and we
and
can
this ain't
continue
even.
dialoguing instead of like wanting to shut down that like segment of the conversation. For the last like in the last 150 years, over 180 million people have been unalived by atheistical pursuits. Now, the reason you say this 98% is because you won't consider atheists or leftists a religion, right?
Because it's well, I feel like left. I feel like depending on how far left, because there are like some really far left people. I feel like more that's more so of a cult. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a religion necessarily because you're not serving a
Yeah,
higher
this is
power.
why we disagree. I mean, I think
I
people
personally feel like if your
do
higher
all.
power, I personally feel like if your higher power can be unalived by a 9 millimeter, that's not a higher power. He is
So
in no way, shape, or form more powerful. So
since the rise of atheism, right? I mean, because the world was pretty much religious until Marx made it fashionable not to be. Per capita, in such a small segment of time, it shows that the most destructive force on this planet are atheistical pursuits, not religious ones.
what
From
is
from
an atheistic pursuit? Please explain. Let me know.
well, I would even lump in Nazism in that. This idea that I'm going to unalive you for any other reason other than because the Bible told me so, because this is what the reason that people in the Soviet Union had no issue unaliving so many people is because in their mind, the idea of man being special or any different than an animal didn't exist. The idea that the reason man's special is because he was created in the image of God was a religious idea. Human dignity was a religious idea. I mean, for them, a million people being unalived was just a statistic. So yes, I mean, I think atheists do not value human life inherently like the average religious person does.
Yeah, I'm technically not really a I wouldn't be considered an atheist because atheists don't believe in anything, but I do believe that there is a higher power than myself. I don't have a set religion because I will find out what God is when I die. That's the only for sure way to know.
Yeah.
Any other way is dumb. The only way you will possibly ever know is when you die. That is the only guaranteed
No,
way.
for sure. I mean, it's not even about believing in God. There's many people who say
I'm
they
not
believe
saying
in
I
God and they
don't
behave
believe in
horribly.
God. It's just that I don't have a set religion.
Mhm.
But the thing is, right, there's a lot of things that I don't do, right? Just because I know that they're wrong, right? I'm not out here unaliving people every day, even though I want to, because I don't like people. I want to, but I don't because I have something called self control. I want to because I hate people. I hate the entire human species who just so happen to not be related to me
Yeah. I
or
mean, I
matter.
like people, but I don't like humanity. So I mean, this is the distinction. They're beautiful
But,
individual people, but as a group, I think yes, we're crappy.
but right, there's a lot of things that I believe. Like personally, I don't believe liars, cheaters, or child abuse deserve human rights. In Boston Celtics fans, I don't feel like they deserve human rights either. But right, I am not in a position of power to change any of that.
Well,
So I don't personally like. And on top of that, even if I was, I wouldn't because one, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a good person or something because I still do have my flaws, you know. But it's just that I'm not going to because it would serve me no benefit. It would only cause me more harm. And most people, right, who are religious, most things, right, the reason why violent crimes are not higher than they are is because people fear consequence. People don't want to go to jail. People don't want, they either fear legal consequence or biblical consequence or something called revenge. They fear one of those three things, which all of them happen to be consequence for action. That's the reason they don't do it. And
yeah.
those are always going to be shitty people.
No, but that's fine. It doesn't matter why they do the right thing. What matters is that they do the right thing. What you're basically
Yes, it
saying is that
does.
people who
I feel
don't
like
fear
if
these
you're
consequences, right, or who don't have these consequences because they don't believe in God, have some sort of permission to do the wrong thing. So I think you're agreeing with my point that religion makes people better in the big picture.
in a way, I have seen people, right, who are better people because of religion, but most religious people that I've met aren't good people. They only ever don't do bad things because they fear punishment.
That's fine.
That
But who
is
cares?
not what makes you a good person.
Yeah, but I'm not saying they're
You
good
should
people.
want to be a good person because you want to be, not because you fear,
I
oh, if
care
I'm
about
not
the
a good
bigger
person,
picture. The
I'm
bigger
going to get
picture.
biblical consequence.
We would rather a group of 50,000 people be Christian than 50,000 people be atheist. Okay? Because it doesn't matter whether Christian is doing what he's doing, regardless, the end goal is an ethical net gain for the world. While people, that will steal from you, unalive you with no conscience, with nothing telling them they're doing something wrong, is more likely to do more of that than not. So that's it. I mean, in life the choice is typically not between what's perfect and what's horrific, but between what's good and what's better. I think we could all come to the conclusion that it's better to be religious in like one of the three major monotheistic biblically based belief systems than to be an atheist. All right, big picture, I'm not saying how you feel about it. Overall, the world would be crappier if we didn't have the Bible.
I don't think so. I mean, the world was already actually the world was worse back in the day when people like Genghis Khan existed and the Bible existed then. So
Yeah, but
maybe
Genghis
not.
Khan proves my point. I mean, he didn't believe in the Bible.
Who the fuck told you that lie?
Genghis
He was
Khan. So what religion was?
even though he was even though he was a contradicting Buddhist, he was technically a Buddhist.
Yeah, but that's not part of our
That's
Bible. I'm making the case, okay?
yeah,
And
but
Buddhism
Buddhism,
doesn't
but
believe in a God.
Buddhism is also a recognized religion. I feel like disrespecting it
I'm
is
not
kind of
disrespecting
crazy.
it. I'm just saying that it's not part of our belief system. They don't even believe in a God necessarily.
They don't. They're spiritual people. But the thing is, I mean, they have gods in their beliefs. But yeah, it's
I
I,
mean, Buddhism came out of Hinduism for sure, but I'm making the case for the Bible, bro. Like in terms of Genghis Khan, I mean, he doesn't come into the mix. If anything, if Genghis Khan was a Christian, it'd be hard for me to believe how he could unalive so many people. Right?
I'm pretty sure back in the Bible days, right? Which what I'm gonna say around the time that the Bible takes place in, there was a lot of war back then, a lot. And I'm going to take a wild guess, even though scientists have not proven this, because there's no possible way I can prove a person who has been dead for over 200 years was a Christian or not. Because one, I don't, their brain is not there anymore. It's dust now. And secondly, I was not there. So that's the only two possible ways. If I could read their mind, which they don't have anymore, or I was there, those are the only two confirmed ways I could possibly know that, which I don't.
All right.
But I'm going to take a wild guess and assume that around the time and the place that these bodies were found, right? And I'm going to take a wild guess and assume that they had to be a part of some religion, and maybe it was Christianity, which, by the way, since I happen to be half African,
All right. So
Africans.
today, listen, today, if you have two young men, right,
Mhm.
entering first grade, would you, and one of them is trained with a healthy sense of a fear of God and biblical values, and the other one is left to figure things out on his own, who would you put your money on ending up being more ethical?
So basically, who would I put my money on being a better person?
Yeah.
Since I'm a betting man and I like betting against the underdog, I'm gonna bet against the person who's just left to figure it out on his own.
Yeah, but don't bet because the underdog. I mean, use common sense of your experience in life. People, here, for example, if someone has a law that tells them not to eat pork,
Every time the underdog, literally damn near every time the underdog wins.
yeah,
So that's the reason why I'm putting my money on the underdog.
all
Because
right,
I know I'm most likely gonna end up being correct. I have a higher chance of being
yeah, but
correct
not
with
by
this.
logic. I mean, that's by like circumstance.
No, if
So, like
history serves me right, I have
hypothetical.
a more likely history in almost anything, including sports, because I bet on sports a lot, right? Anything shows me that the underdog is more
Okay, okay,
likely
okay.
to win than not.
Let me give you another
I'm
example.
gonna put money on
Wait,
the
hold on,
underdog.
hold on, hold on, hold on. Well, you're dating a girl, right? One girl is a church-going religious girl, right? I mean, who ain't even gonna give it up on the first date, right? And then the other girl, assuming you have a choice between, just one, is an atheist, right? Doesn't believe in God, right? Who's more likely to be chased? I mean, who's more likely to sleep around and more likely to cheat on you? The religious girl who's trying to adhere to some standard that she believes God is holding her to, or someone who just follows her heart?
Personally, I'm gonna say this: one, if she says anything like God first, she's a hoe. She's a whore.
Come on, man. Man, what are you
That is a fact. For one, the
That's
fact
not a
that
fact. How are you gonna say that?
you are a man and you don't know if she says God first, she's a fucking hoe is craziness.
She may be a
Like,
hoe, okay? She may be a hoe, but I would believe that some Antifa
if
chick,
you're,
someone who doesn't
I
even
know
believe
from
in God,
personal experience
I mean, it's
that
probably
church
polyamorous.
girls. I know from a personal experience that the most hoish people are church girls. I know from personal
All
experience.
right, all right, all right, okay.
So
All
come
right.
on now.
All right,
Stop.
so we're gonna move on. I mean, thanks for stopping by and educating our audience. I mean, I really appreciate the conversation, but I mean, I think that we're gonna get banned. I mean, just because there's too many. Yeah. All right, Steven, save us. That's it. I caught Steven off guard. Okay, fine. Never mind. All right. No, I think the dialogue was a good one. Right? I mean, he clearly thinks he's a thinker, right? We just happen to disagree with the outcome. I would put my money on the religious person. Obviously, no one's perfect, but I would expect someone who tries to live against some ethical code to end up being more ethical. It's like assuming that if you have a guy who follows a book that tells him not to eat pork, and then you have another guy who has no book telling him what he can eat or what he could eat, right? It'd be silly for me to assume that the guy who has the rule not to eat pork is going to eat more pork than the person who doesn't have the rule, right? That's just logical. Logical. All right. On that note, what's next, guys? The topic's the same. Heretics get on. Heretics. I guess they would say I'm the heretic. Haters get on first. Haters get on first. But let's. Are there any religious Jewish people on here who wanna have a good discussion? If not, friends are not watching. But let's go ahead and invite them anyways. Let's see. Anyone? I'm sure people say that whenever they bring up Meza, they're going to say something Not too bad. They'll be like, Meza, I don't agree with everything he says. Like that isn't a given, obviously. However, if you say that you don't agree with everything I say, you should be able to come up here and articulate those little points of disagreement. But let's see. This guy sounds from Chris Haskell. Come up, come on down. I can't even say this. Mr. Horse. Okay. Who else? What do we got here? I guess we could throw Karina in the mix here. There was a singer in the 80s named Karina. She may have been from Chicago, but she sung freestyle. Anyways, so yes, big picture matters. I don't care. This is why I rather someone, even if they happen to have a Jewish mother, to consider becoming some of the three, like one of the three major monotheistic religions for the sake of the world. I think people who adhere to some biblical standard end up doing better for this planet than people who don't. That's it. This is why I'm not very tribal. I'm not like it's us against them. I was talking to someone the other day, a Jewish person, who doesn't consider or like wouldn't consider a Messianic Jew religious, or wouldn't consider a religious Muslim religious. Why? Because according to it's true, this is I would say how most Orthodox Jews see it. If you're not part of their religion, they don't even grant you the title of a religious person, because this is the only way. So I don't see it like that. I mean, I tell people that if they convert to Judaism, they could start counting how long they've been religious from when they became Christian, because that is that's when you started in some way, subduing your nature, going against the flow. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's probably not when you joined the straight path, all right? The essentially my path. But yeah, welcome, Karina.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi. Where's your background from, Karina?
Big mix, Italian, English, African American, a little everything.
Now, where do you live? What state?
I'm in Connecticut,
Okay.
but I'm from Bronx, New York.
The Bronx. In Spanish? At all?
No, just a little Portuguese in there. That's it.
Legal. All right. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, apart from your pedigree.
I was Christian. I didn't grow up Christian, but then I started going to church a few years ago, but then I realized the things that weren't true about it. So I started looking at Judaism. And then we first started going to the Chabad to check it out. And we weren't treated too great there after a little while. They said that since
mistreatment.
yes, we were going for a while before when the rabbi was out, so it was just his son there. We were treated well, but then the regular rabbi came back, and he asked if we were converting Orthodox, which I looked into it, but then I realized it wouldn't fit for our family since my husband's not converting. So then he said, then you guys are not welcome to come to service because it's proselytizing. And we don't want anybody here that's not Jewish at service.
Uh-huh. What did you tell him?
So
that
even
proselytizing?
no, I didn't say. I was surprised
Oh, you were
when he just popped it up on us. He said we could still come to events, but we can't come to service. So
people proselytize when during service, obviously. I'm kidding, but yeah.
I know I heard your voice in my head saying this is not true. So I'm glad I listened to you.
Yeah, I mean that's the last time you went. I mean that's the worst time to prophesize, while people are praying. But I don't know. What are you gonna do?
So we looked at. I know you.
The reason I asked you to mention it is because if people don't hear these things, then by definition we're never going to improve. Okay, because I get attacked constantly. They're like, "Is there anything positive you can say about the Jewish people?" I'm like, I say, by the simple fact that I'm encouraging people to look into Judaism means I'm pro the religion, right? But the idea that we have to whitewash that incident means that the crappy people are going to win, and we can't allow that to happen.
I know it was really disappointing to be treated that way.
Yeah.
But how
I
about
if
so?
anything, I apologize in behalf, like, not that I'm being Jesus to these people and taking their sins, but in behalf of cold-hearted Jewish people, I apologize.
Thank you. But I know you don't like reform, but that's the conversion we've been going through now for over about a year now.
They are
Even though you don't
evangelizing.
like them, I see they're more welcoming
It's
and they
true. They
treat
are
my
more
husband.
welcoming.
Mhm.
They are
I
more
mean,
welcoming,
even
unless you say something positive about the Republican Party. It's true.
maybe. But like my husband, he's not converting, and they don't treat him like an outcast, like a,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, I'll give you that for sure. I mean, I'm not. It's not that I dislike reform, but I just don't feel that they take the Bible seriously. So if I was going to pick a group just because how sweet the people are, I would probably become Mormon. Um, I I think that as long as you have a solid foundation, right? I mean, even though like all you have is like weird, ugly trees and weeds and stuff like that, as long as the foundation is good, then there's hope for it. But if the foundation is corrupted to begin with, and it sounds like I'm quoting Jesus, but this is just logical, right? Then there's hope. There's hope. So I don't see hope in the long run for Reform Judaism and Reform Jews, unfortunately. Um, but I see more hope with Chabad, as weird as I mean, that may sound and hard to see, just because the Torah is still there, the Torah is still intact. They're not saying the Torah says this, but we're doing that. I mean, they're doing that with the oral law, with the women converts. So this is why, I mean, I've asked myself, because sometimes I've met people who, like women in particular, who are converting to Judaism and they make it so hard for them that they end up converting to Islam. And then, you know what? I
Mm,
mean, I get it, especially from a female perspective. I don't think men and women are the same. Like, we may be equal, but we're not the same. So I think it's smart for a woman who's looking to get married. It's smart for a woman who wants to procreate before the age of 30 or 35 to just find an ethical movement and just move forward for the sake of progress. However, for a man who's supposed to be the ideologue and the leader, it's hard for us to compromise something so foundational, which is logic. Um, in in the case of dropping Judaism and becoming Christian or Muslim just because people mistreat you, the masculine approach is that when people fight you or when people push, you push back, right? Because from that perspective, the Torah belongs to you, right? It doesn't belong to them. I mean, it belongs to whoever wants it and does the best by it. So the masculine approach is like, no, you know what? This rabbi is wrong. I'm going to end up building my own synagogue and putting him out of business. That's the masculine competitive approach. I don't think that's a healthy approach for a woman to take because a woman has children to take care of. They say that when elephants play, the grass suffers. That means when ideologues, do things for idealistic reasons, everybody suffers. But at the end, we hope that that goodness could still move forward. But women are too practical. They're just like, I don't got time for this crap. I just don't want to be secular, and I want my children to be God fearing and my daughters to be chaste and like live happy lives. So I'm going to convert to Islam. So it's a very difficult situation. This is why I dislike when people misrepresent Torah or mistreat people in behalf of Torah, because what they do is that they poison the well for everybody. You know what I mean? So what happens is that they
that's
don't
true.
just drop Judaism because of that Chabad rabbi. They end up dropping the belief in God. And for some reason, this doesn't bother people. It doesn't bother many rabbis enough to change their behavior. They're like, I don't care. My Torah is for the Jews. My synagogue's for the Jews. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're in a non-Jewish country. It's like, and converts is a thing in our religion, and there's no distinction between a Gentile and a Jew, but Torah. So give the Gentile Torah. What you have is another Jew. They don't see it that way. One, because
Mhm.
Kabbalah has poisoned their mind to such an extent that being mystically inclined for them means never having to say you're sorry for the bad consequences of your decisions, right? Because it's all mystical. If it's mystical, God's got this. God's going to make sure that we make
Yeah.
I'm finish line. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. I mean, this is why. Whatever. People are going to say it.
I mean,
Yeah.
not to say, you always say like it depends on the person's observance. Like I could go to a reform shul, but if we live our lives more like a conservative, You said still wouldn't count, or
No, it doesn't. Okay, okay. You don't have to convert to Judaism to be in a covenant with God. The
hmm
reason you're going to a Reformed synagogue is to have people to hang out with. That's it. Have people to laugh with, like have some kids for your kids to play with. It's not the conversion that gets you saved. Okay, it's Torah observance that gets you validated by a good God, whether you end up converting or not. And in this case, right, you for sure get a pass because you're trying to convert, but you can't because of politics. It
hmm
doesn't for sure. I expect you to remain fully Torah observant, even though you go to a Reformed synagogue. I mean, God's not upset at you. It's not the rabbi that makes you Jewish. You can be in the
hmm
covenant without being Jewish, and you could be Jewish and not be in the covenant. It says in Isaiah 56, it says, "Let the nochri, let the stranger, not say that God would exclude me from His covenant." Right? Covenant means that you made an agreement with God that you're going to keep His commandments. That's it. Now, it's the loss of the Jewish people. It's our loss that there's a rabbi standing in between you and orthodoxy. I mean, it's not your fault. So, yeah,
thanks.
I mean, and the last thing I would ever want you to do is divorce your husband
hmm
over this. And I'll tell you, there's many rabbis who will tell you, like, not by converting, but they'll tell you, oh, you think you're Jewish? Because for some reason, where I am in the Spanish world, every Spanish person thinks they're Jewish, right? Like, even before they convert. So they'll say, if you think you're Jewish, then you have to leave your husband because a Jew can't be married to a Gentile. Even though you got kids.
Mm,
Honestly, I mean, perhaps, why don't you try to proselytize the husband? Bring him over.
yes.
No, you got to break up with him. These people live on a different planet.
And like I say, I'm in reform, but I'm on the right. I went to a January 6th in Connecticut version with my kids, and the whole Gay Pride Month is hard, but I'm saying overall, they treat us good, and
Yeah,
we are learning there,
for sure.
and I'm teaching myself along the way too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
What's your
trying.
husband? What's your husband?
What is he, Puerto Rican?
Not Puerto Rican and Arabian. Yeah, as much as many want to claim. No, that's Dominican. Bendito.
Oh, we're Republican, yeah. So
No, no. Yeah, but what religion is he?
he's more that he finds good in all religions, but not a specific one.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to a certain extent.
So,
Um,
so not all reform are Democrat.
oh,
Crazy purple hair.
what do you mean?
Some
Oh,
of them
because
are like us.
you mean because you're reformed?
Well, I go to reform. I don't know if I label myself. You know,
Have you met some Republican reform?
there's one. I think he's a maybe retired Chabad rabbi. He tries to teach the Orthodox values at the
Oh,
synagogue.
yeah, so they're not
hmm
really
But
reform. I mean, sometimes they just go because they want a free meal on the side. Or a place, especially old folks. I mean, old folks just want to be around other people and younger people and you know whatever. Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, okay, whatever. So, what do you do, Karina, for a living?
stay-at-home mom, homeschool.
What's up? I'm a big proponent of homeschooling, by the way. Big proponent of it.
I'm debating sending them to the Hebrew school just because I don't know if they talk politics and things
Don't
with
do it.
reform.
Don't do it.
Okay.
Don't do it. And it's not because it's not only because it's reform. Even if it was Orthodox, I would tell you to homeschool them.
Hmm.
We used to homeschool my daughter, and she was the sweetest little girl till we sent her to like the regular Orthodox school. Different person. It's
Well,
the girls are just as crappy as they are in public school. It's I mean, whenever you institutionalize parenting, which is essentially what you're doing, right? They end up raising your kids. You lose control, and then before you know it, when
yeah.
they're old enough, you're gonna be like, "How this?" Your kid's supposed to be a little you, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose of having kids. Leaving something on this planet that's going to keep on pushing your values, right? Because you want to improve the world a little better. But all you're doing, especially Jewish schools, even Orthodox schools, are not very right wing, right? They're very,
Hmm.
man. I have the nightmare stories. Like my daughter's school tried to take me to court because I wouldn't put my daughter on medication. The most
Wow.
hysterical people. Like only because someone calls themselves Orthodox doesn't mean they share traditional conservative values. Unfortunately, homeschooling another way. I do it as long as it's possible. In some places, they're trying to outlaw it. So,
That's why I moved to Connecticut because New York is too strict for homeschoolers.
well, I mean, move down to Florida. I mean, here you could homeschool and open carry and concealed carry without any,
Well, we carry here too.
illegally.
Yeah, it's legal here in Connecticut too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. So give me constructive criticism on how to improve my show.
Hmm.
I mean, you've been around for a while. I mean, I've seen you in the comments there. So what do you think? I mean, I know you probably heard everyone accusing me of, like, I don't know, unaliving John F. Kennedy and every weird accusation.
I think you're doing great. It's just saying all reform is the same.
Oh,
Some are more observant, I think, than others.
you think so? I'm talking about the tenets of the system, right? Like the actual, you know what I mean? Like if the rules of the organization teach one thing, only because there happen to be a handful, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of Messianic Jews who go to Reform synagogues. Messianic Jews, man, and I don't, I'm not trying to judge you in anything you happen to believe, but from what I've noticed, I've seen, I know many Messianic Jews that go to Reform synagogues because they're so welcoming. Well, Orthodox synagogues are going to start asking you, "What's your last name? Where are you from?" Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so from that perspective, yeah, there are Torah observant people who become Reformed, but I typically try to judge an institution by its rabbinate. The average Reform rabbi is extremely, extremely anti-biblical values. Anti-biblical values. It's really an extension of the Democratic Party. I mean, even Orthodox synagogues typically rarely mention politics in their sermons. But Reform, they never miss an opportunity, to throw a little jab towards conservatives and Trump for sure. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard being on the right and being there sometimes, but I don't really have many options.
That's true. That is true. What are you gonna do?
But like I'll still pop in maybe the Chabad and do some events, but I don't think I would ever go back to the service.
I'd be willing to talk to that rabbi for you. See if I could, knock some sense into him. Like, send me his name.
All right.
And I'll call him, like, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, I wish I could see that, but I doubt it. I doubt he would. They never want to talk.
And he might convert me to Chabad, I mean, I may have to, and I'll be like, you know what? It's like this, there was this Woody Allen movie called Radio Days, that they're fasting on Yom Kippur in a Jewish part of New York, and then their neighbors are Jewish, but they're Jewish communists. So they're having a party on Yom Kippur and a barbecue, and they're barbecuing lobster and all this stuff. And so the wife of the religious person goes and tells, like, the husband, tell him to turn off the music and stop barbecuing at Yom Kippur. And he's like, okay, I'm going to tell him a piece of my mind. Right? So he goes, and then 2 hours later, he comes back with like a bib with a lobster on it. And he's like, the communist won. I mean, the Marxist, he's here talking about like how religion is the opiate of the masses and all this stuff. So that's what's going to happen with me. I mean, I'm going to try to educate the Chabad rabbi, and I'm going to become Chabad.
Well, at least they're Trump supporters, though, I guess. They're Republicans.
With the exception of Rabbi Litvin on this platform, he doesn't like Trump.
Oh my gosh.
Kinda
I don't know
weird.
why you waste your time anyway with him anymore.
It's not me. He keeps on saying stuff about me. Like in the Talmud, we have this principle that silence is agreement. Like if someone says you eat jelly beans, right? And you don't say anything, it's like you're co-signing. So if someone says that I steal money and I do all this stuff, I'm like, what am I gonna say? Just stay quiet? Yeah, I'm telling you, bro. TikTok. Did you say how Red Bull gives you wings, right? TikTok gives people muscles, and people could say what they want, but they know in real life, they're not gonna roll up, and say anything near that. I mean, I would decapitate these individuals. My gosh, this is why. I mean, I'm
And
so.
what I've noticed,
Yeah.
Uh, I've noticed this such divide between the different sects. Like everybody hates on everybody else, and
Yeah, they
I
all
didn't
hate
see
on me.
that too much in Christianity.
They all hate on me.
And they all hate on you.
All eyes on me.
I always defend you. I'm always sticking up for you.
And what's there not to defend? It's just like I'm like the nicest guy here, man. In terms of like, I don't attack people. I mean, I'll attack jerks. Like if someone's jerky, I'll be like, hey, that's not cool. You know, but attack people's character, make it personal. I don't do that stuff, bro. I mean, it's just. But I do
And I
look
hate
for
all
the
the
dialogue.
fake Jews,
Yeah, it doesn't matter what
especially
you.
converts.
It doesn't matter what you claim to know. It's what you can defend. Okay, this is why anyone who calls me anything, my only tactic, my most effective tactic, is to invite them on the show and have a dialogue, because they will lose, no matter how long the rabbi's beard is. You know, just in the area where we happen to disagree, I'm just with my track record of doing what I do, they will lose and they know it. This is why Rabbi Littman refuses to debate me. It's so easy to shut someone down, debate them, record it, and post that this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But they know that Usher knows what he's talking about, but it's unpopular and it goes against their narrative. That's it. Whatever.
Hmm.
And this is why
I think the only reason,
Yep.
sorry,
Good.
I think the only reason they do it to you is because you're a convert. I think if you were born Jewish, it would never happen.
100%. 100%. I mean, there are people here who have weirder ideas, who are anti-Israel, right? But because they have a fancy sounding last name, they're like, oh, okay, fine. You know, I mean, they let it go. How many times has a Jewish person come up to me and tell me, remember where I came from? You know,
Mm,
this is what the guy does. He says, hey, Jorge, you know, first of all, my name's not Jorge.
yeah.
My legal name is George. My legal name is George with a G, first of all. You know, like it's not George with a J. That's my father. But the simple fact they do that is another way of them announcing that they dislike me because of my past. Like it's something to be ashamed
Yeah.
of.
But would you consider anybody Jewish that just accepts the covenant?
No,
Not they don't have to accept a certain sect.
no. In order to be Jewish, you have to convert to Judaism. Okay. In order to be in the covenant, all you have to do is accept the covenant. Keep Torah, that's fine. You know, like if that constitutes God viewing you as a Jew, then that's fine. But I don't believe that people who don't convert to Judaism or have Jewish mothers are under Jewish law or have the title Jewish.
Do you consider the reform conversion process
If it's done by
by
two
law?
males that don't violate the Sabbath to some extent, then yeah, it's kosher. But if it includes a woman, and it's typically going to include a woman if it's reformed, then no, just because Jewish law doesn't allow for it. I'm very strict. I'm very straight to the book. If halacha allows it, then I endorse it. If it doesn't, then I don't. And this is
Um,
I mean, this is the only way that I'm able to protect myself, like with debates, because I mean, people can't call me out for breaking Jewish law. I could call them out because I stick to Jewish law so precisely.
my rabbi is going to get 3 male rabbis because I requested all males. So it's taking a little longer for her to find the people who will do it.
Well, ask her if she'll accept my conversion. Like, meaning, if I convert you guys, I mean, ask her if she'll accept the conversion from an Orthodox rabbi. You could come down here the first Sunday of every month, of any month.
I wish that'd be awesome.
Yeah. All right.
I did talk to your friend in New York too.
Rabbi Kolakowski?
Yeah, but he said he wouldn't do it unless my husband did it too.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a law, but it makes sense.
Hmm.
You know, for people commenting in the chat, please come up. Please come up. Let's not do these drive-by commentary / insults.
Thank you. You're easy to talk to. Everybody should be nicer to you.
Look at that. No, I was saying there was a singer in the 90s, like a freestyle singer called Karina. You're not familiar with her?
No, I know the song Karina, Karina, but that's it.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. I mean, this might be your new favorite. He sung freestyle. Karina freestyle. Yeah, Karina. Here, I'm gonna play a song, but it's probably not gonna play. Well, I mean, the people on YouTube won't hear it. Here, I mean, it's pop music. She has a lot
Sounds
of.
familiar.
Yeah. Hold on. I mean, she has a lot of hits. Karina, back in the day, I'm telling you, I used to be a DJ. I guess it's something I never told people.
That's cool.
I used to be a DJ uh, for American and Spanish music. So I know Spanish music, old school Spanish music. Forget about it. Gran Combo, you know, everything. I mean, I had the record crates full of them. You know, I mean, like the milk crates. You know, so I was a DJ for like freestyle music in Miami back in the day. So Karina is a thing. Hold on. Is she Puerto Rican? Hold on. Puerto Rican. I'm trying to find her big hit. Oh, is this summertime? Oh, is this it? Wait, hold on. I didn't know she.
To get started in data analytics, you don't need previous experience or a degree. The Google Data Analytics Certificate will teach you to.
Now you know.
Party on TikTok.
That's Karina, bro. Your whole life.
Oh, now I know. Now I know.
You're sporting the name Karina, and you don't know there's a famous Karina.
I wondered, have you ever thought in the beginning just being a Torah Christian, like maybe you could have still kept doing your outreach to like people in the street that needed help, or like you can't do really the outreach anymore, right?
So
Or
yes, I could, and I did. Let me see if I find the video. When I lived in Denver, Colorado, I had street outreach for homeless people, and I wrote out my own tracks. Weirdest thing. Hold on. Let's see if I find it here. Like now, Denver street preachers, Judaism. Let's see if I find it. There's so much stuff out here. Hold on, you gotta see this. The people on YouTube can't hear anything that comes out of my computer because the StreamYard is on the computer. So let's see. But maybe this will encourage people to reach out to homeless people in the name of it's possible. I mean, you could do it. And truth be told, I think Reform actually does this. Where they will have like soup kitchens and stuff. All right,
that's nice.
Okay, this is a video. Hold on, I'm gonna like flip the camera around. Flip. All right, check this out. What does it say?
Oh, that's cool.
Denver Jewish street preachers. Check this out. This is Rabbi Asher Meza in the streets of Denver, Colorado. We're spreading the good news of Torah, Judaism, that God so loved the world. That not that He gave us His only begotten Son, but He gave us the highest standard to aspire to. Standard is for Jesus. We're sharing this with the world. We're giving out tracts. We're giving out bags of chips. And we're giving out soda, socks. Homeless out here, all in the name of Judaism. If you like what you see, you can join us, or you can do it yourself in your own city. Let me introduce you to our crew over here. We got Shlomo Ben Yisrael. Hello. And we have Shaul Ben Shlomo. And we have Omed Yashar. This should really work as an example. This is old. This video is like 12 years old. Every Jew should be doing in the name of Judaism. Being an Orla boy and a light of the nation, just like it says that.
You gotta do it again.
Make Jews in the streets of Denver. God bless. Let's check this out.
right now, my friend Yosef is across the street. He's read the Bible and teaching the Judaism. We're teaching them that Judaism, anyone can become a Jew and create the world.
Anyways, and you guys could look at the video. It's
That's
called
really cool.
Jewish Street Missionaries in Denver.
You should do it. Bring it back.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm already getting old. So I'm trying to do it. It's a shame, though.
It is a shame because now they would be asking the homeless guy if he's Jewish, or they wouldn't even.
It's so frustrating. One reason I do so many debates with anyone on TikTok is to show them that the only guy proselytizing is the guy who could beat anyone in a debate in Judaism, meaning they're doing something wrong. They don't know Judaism well enough, and they're in some way poisoning the minds of everybody else. That it's so. I mean, I think God's going to punish or has punished us because of it, for sure. I mean, we're being led essentially by a bunch of dummies. That's what it is. We have to call it what it is. I mean, these rabbis are a bunch of dummies, and all they care about is just getting paid by their congregation and honor. I mean, boy, I sound like Jesus now. It's all hypocrisy. Well, there's good people out there who want to follow God, who want to do the right thing, and they aren't even led into a synagogue. You know how stupid that sounds? It's like they're the evil people on this planet, and they're the stupid people on this planet, and I belong to the stupid people. So what are you going to do?
Well, thank you for doing your work, trying to make it better.
All right, on that note, but before we get reported off this platform, then we'll end. All right, thanks, Korea.
Have a good week.
Okay, take it.